For this project, you'll be using cardboard and a glue gun to make your three-dimensional replica of an object. The videos that we've shown before that are included in the playlist are using tape instead of hot glue. Hot glue is a much easier way of working. So I'm going to go over a few safety tips for how to use a hot glue gun. First, you want to make sure your hot glue gun is on a stable surface and that the cord is not crossed across a table where you might step on it and pull the hot glue gun off. When you plug your hot glue gun in, the tip of the hot glue gun gets really hot as well as the inside of the hot glue gun. So first you plug your hot glue gun in, you can take a glue stick, one of these long glue sticks, and push it into the back of the hot glue gun and start pulling on this trigger here, and it will pull the hot glue into the hot glue gun. And once this heats up, the hot glue comes out of the tip of the hot glue gun. So you want to make sure that you protect your surface. I have a piece of cardboard here where the tip of the hot glue can drip out if the hot glue gets too hot and needs to go somewhere. So as it's warming up, every now and then, I just pull the hot glue and push slightly in for the hot glue stick to go into the gun more. As I'm waiting for the hot glue to warm up, I will get I'm making a cylinder, so I'm going to get the pieces ready. I have the body of the cylinder and two circles for the cylinder, and the body is cut to be the same size as the circle, so the circle can easily fit into that body of the cylinder. But to stabilize the cylinder, I have two other pieces of cardboard that's cut and also scored, so that it goes in the same direction as the body of the cylinder. So I will glue this to the inside of the cylinder on the top and the bottom, and I'll make sure to glue it just 1/8 of an inch in, which is the thickness of the circle. So that way the circle can have something to rest on as I'm gluing it and securing it. So to get started, I'm going to draw a line, an 1/8 of an inch line, all the way down the edge of both sides of the inside of the cylinder. So a few things to pay attention to. The cylinder, you can see there are some markings on the inside of my cardboard and also on the inside of my circles. I was using a box that had printing on it, so I made sure to have the printing on the inside of my object. That makes it much cleaner. So I have two lines as a guide for my 1/8 of an inch. So once I squeeze the hot glue gun and the glue comes out, so you can see it comes out onto this piece of cardboard that I'm using to protect my surface. And it's really important not to use your cutting mat for that purpose because it will make it harder to cut on if you have glue dried on your cutting mat, so make sure to protect your surface. So now what I'll do is I'm gluing the inside to the inside this scored piece of cardboard, and I make sure to line it up with that line that I drew that's 1/8 of an inch, and I'm also lining up this score with the edge of the cardboard so that they bend at the same place. So to glue, I just take my hot glue gun and gently squeeze. I don't want to squeeze too much or too much glue will come out. And then I can take the tip and rub it along the surface so that it's not a huge glob of glue. And I'm really careful to situate my cardboard quickly. The glue will dry really quickly, so you want to make sure to work with it fairly quick. I also made sure that I'm not touching the hot glue. If you touch the hot glue, it can get on your skin and dry while it's hot. It's really painful. So It's also a good idea to have a piece of, or a cup of water, just room temperature water around, in case you get glue on your hand, then you can quickly glue it. So now for the other side, I'll apply some glue to this piece of cardboard and then wrap this around to meet it. And you can see I have a really big glob at the front, but I can take the tip, smooth it out, and I'm working very quickly to make sure that the hot glue doesn't dry. And I'm also rotating this slightly to make sure that it stays in that circular shape and the hot glue doesn't prevent it from curving still. So I have one side glued together, and I should have glued, while my cylinder was open, I should have glued 2 tabs on one side and then closed it, but I didn't, so it's going to be a little bit trickier to work with, but it's good to see how that can happen. So I make sure to situate my cardboard here, and I'm going to use a little bit of tape to hold it in place, to hold one side in place. And you want to be careful if you're using tape to hold it in place that you're not pushing the tape on the cardboard very hard, so that you don't end up with the cardboard being torn when you take the tape off. So you can see here I'm lining that up with the line, the 1/8 of an inch. I also make sure I have my crease here. And I'm just taking tape on the inside and around to the outside. That way I can pull this flat back, apply glue, and put it into place before I remove the tape and do the other side. So it's helpful to have one side stable before you work on the other side. I'm making sure that if I put a bunch of glue, a big drop of glue in there, and then I push it, it could squeeze out. So I make sure not to put too much glue, and I keep my fingers away from the edges of the cardboard when I squeeze it to make sure that my fingers do not get glue on them. So now I can take this piece of tape off that I put on really lightly, and you can see it's not tearing the cardboard, which is really important. And I'm pulling this flat back. I'll apply glue to it. And now I put it in place, and I'm making sure that all of my lines are lined up. So I have my cylinder now, and I got a little bit of glue on my hand. It seeped out of the seam here, so this is what you want to be careful of. It was warm, it wasn't hot by the time it hit my hand, but you want to be really careful. So I make sure that my cylinder is in a cylinder form, and I have this ledge now that will help guide me as I put my circle in place, and it gives it a little more support as I get it together. So I'm putting my circle, I want this circle to go on the inside of the cylinder as well as the other circle. Another option would be to put a bead of glue around the top and place the circle on top of that. I'm putting both of my circles in to make sure that they fit. So they both fit. I'll pop them out, and then I'm just going to put a small bead of glue on the inside here of that ledge. So the ledge is just about halfway around my cylinder, and I make sure to put that circle gently into place. And now the inside, part of it doesn't have glue on the inside, and my glue gun can't reach all the way down there. So a solution for that, something to help, would be to do that inside piece all the way around. Before I put my second circle on, I have one more small corrugated or scored piece of cardboard that I'm going to put on the other side just to make sure that circle is more secure. it's really a good idea to make sure to have support on the interior of your pieces as well as the exterior. So you don't want to just rely on the glue on the outside. So I'll just apply a little bit of glue to the inside here. You can see there's a small dab of glue, and then I'm lining this up again with that eighth of an inch line that I drew on before I started my cylinder. And now this glue, there are some pieces of glue that have dried. I just pull them off. So I have one more support there, and then when I put the glue on here and here on these two ledges that I've created, it's going to make a more secure and stable, structurally sound cylinder, and it will support the top of the cylinder better. And notice every time I put my hot glue gun down, I put it with this piece of cardboard underneath the nozzle so that the extra glue can drip on there and it's not ruining my surface. So I just am putting a bead of glue all the way around, and then I want to quickly get my cylinder, the top of my cylinder, into place. So I have the top and the bottom of the cylinder. I'm going to add a bead of glue to the center here. There's a small gap there. So gently I'm putting glue along there, and I'm going to build up another layer of glue there. So I added a bead of glue. There's a small hole here, and I'll just add one more bead of glue. I let it dry for a little bit. Now, if you get to the place ever where your glue is globbing up, you can take the tip of the glue gun that's hot and run it along your glue to smooth the glue out so it looks aesthetically nicer. And I have a small drip of glue there, so I can just use the tip of my glue gun, and I'm spreading that out. And you want to make sure to hold your object. Don't set this down on anything while the glue is still wet or hot. You can see it will slightly start changing colors as it dries. So right now this end here is getting a little more opaque, and this is more translucent and wet looking. So that's what you should do to use the hot glue gun. Remember, make sure to keep your hands away from the tip of the glue. Keep your hands away from any hot glue once you squeeze it out. Make sure to protect your surface with a piece of scrap paper or cardboard, and create an interior structure inside of your object. Glue some supports inside as you're building up.